I discovered my wife of 19 years, Emily, had been living a secret life with her boss, Rebecca, and it's about to go down in court. Welcome to the raw reality where trust is shattered and the truth is more twisted than any soap opera. Subscribe to our channel for more tales that will have you gripping the edge of your seat. My wife, Emily, and I had been married for 19 years and we had 2 kids in middle school. One day, while I was at work, she texted me asking how soon I could get home. I replied with why she said we needed to have a serious conversation. I should have returned home right away, but I didn't. Soon my colleague, Sophia, noticed that I was completely detached as the CEO of a network of hardware stores. I was supposed to oversee everything. When I showed her the text, she asked if there were problems in my marriage or with one of the kids. I had to admit that there was nothing I was aware of other than the usual issues. Sophia asked if there had been any minor changes in Emily's behavior. For example, does she hang up or stop talking on her cell phone when you enter the room? I didn't notice, I answered, but I've always heard that the husband is the last to know now. Why is she at home? Shouldn't Emily be at work? I texted my wife asking where she was. She replied that she was returning home. Something seemed strange, so I called her work. While waiting for an answer, I turned on the voice recorder. I asked to speak to Emily Ray and was informed that Emily, the regional manager, was no longer associated with that branch. She had been transferred to the head office starting next week, resulting in a week's leave with pay to make the necessary preparations. I asked how long ago was the promotion announced. More than 6 months ago, was the lady's answer. Something didn't add up. Why did she just spend 4 weeks at headquarters for additional training when she was already working directly for the corporation? Why wasn't the family informed about a big career change a few months ago? Sophia, please answer this for me. If your husband told you on Friday night that he had been promoted and transferred starting early next week, what would your first thoughts be? I asked. I'm asking, because that's what my wife is going to tell me. Damn, Sophia answered automatically. I would be asking myself what else is going on, because you must have known for quite some time that this was coming. Thank you, I replied. I thought so too. Now I can go home and face her knowing that everything she says should be taken with a grain of salt. I bet she will tell me a piece of truth hid and deep down in a big pile of lies. Emily could sell ice to Eskimos if she had to make $1, knowing it would take them months to figure out what she was trying to hide. I saw the look of concern on Sophia's face. She knew I was between a rock and a hard place. I had no idea what to expect, but I knew I was about to play the best poker game of my life. The problem was that I didn't have a poker face. With these thoughts in my head, I sent a message to my wife saying that I was on my way. Emily and I met in high school during the first week of 10th grade. One day during lunch break, one of my friends bet with me that I wouldn't dare to approach the first girl I met and kiss her. I did it. My reward was a loud slap in the face and a trip to the school principal. We avoided each other after that. It was easy, since we communicated in different circles. She was a big city girl and I was a local guy, through and through. She always kept abreast of events in New York. Me not so much. All that changed. The week of prom, when we were both in 11th grade, I was filling in for my father's sick employee because my mother dragged him out to some important event. He owned 3 tow trucks and kept them running around the clock. They were part of his car dealership's operations. It was a busy evening and I was called to help. Some idiot took a turn at Smith's farm too fast and slid off the road into his cornfield, damaging the right rear tire so badly that the car was undrivable. Mr. Smith called the police, who called us. It took me about 20 minutes to get there. As soon as I turned up, I drove in reverse and hitched the car. The policeman told me to take it to the impound lot at this time. I noticed Emily standing next to the police car, wet from the rain and wearing a completely ruined prom dress. I took off my raincoat and handed it to her. Even at that age she was a beauty. I considered her a 10. I asked the officer if I could give her a ride home before driving to the parking lot. He said they would be grateful because they would be there for at least another hour investigating the accident. I asked the policeman to call her parents and tell them that we had just left. He asked why, and I explained that we had a pass and it was better not to have doubts. The parents opened the door as soon as we arrived at their house. I went out and helped her down, then left to finish my work, completely forgetting that she had taken my raincoat. We didn't exchange a word the entire trip home. I didn't know what was said when Emily returned home. I never asked. I was sitting with my usual group at school during lunch on Monday when Emily approached with a tray of food. "Can I join you?" she said before being invited to sit down. "Can you move?" she asked Robbie. "I'd like to talk to Michael." Everyone looked at me as she sat down next to me. I received even more stares after Emily kissed my cheek. This is for defending my reputation. On Friday night, Emily said, "You'll have to meet me after school so I can return your cloak to you. I have my last gym class, so I'll be late." I explained, "If you don't want to keep David waiting, maybe another day will suit you better. David is a thing of the past. Just like his father. My dad fired him this morning." Emily replied, "If I miss the bus, you'll have to give me a ride home." "No problem. I know where you live," I said with a smile. She was waiting for me, just like her parents. Then we arrived. Her father said I should thank her for my maturity in handling the situation. He then asked why I asked the officer to tell him when we were leaving the scene of the accident. I had to explain about the dispute. He thought it was funny. "Michael Ray, I have been mistaken about you for more than 2 years because of your insolence," said Emily. "Now I feel like a complete fool. Is there a way for me to fix this? Can I take you to the movies on Friday night? You can even choose the movie." I said from that moment we were inseparable, my friends, and I soon learned that she was no snob. After graduating from high school, I began working for my father, learning the automotive business from the ground up. She got a job as a clerk at an insurance company and worked her way up, taking every online course that management recommended. At this point she had worked her way up the ladder and, as far as I knew, was an assistant branch manager. Over the past year, Emily had spent 1 week a month working at the head office along the way. We had 3 sons. Until now I thought life was good. My father allowed me to do the day work where he would to expand the empire. Over the last 20 years we had expanded to own 8 dealerships, so I now spent most of my time in the office. Emily was waiting for me. When I arrived home, I looked at the screen on the dashboard. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. As I got out of the car, I unfastened my tie as I walked toward the door, looking at her face. She didn't look worried. This gave me the impression that she expected me to fully accept whatever she said. "If I'm going to stay home for the day, can I take off my suit to relax?" I asked my wife. "Or will it just take a few minutes?" "This will take time, so you should change," Emily said. After changing, I came out and said, "Okay, what happened?" Emily gave me several pages of emails. I read them. Basically, it was a correspondence between Rebecca Davis, one of her female bosses at the corporation that I had heard about, and one of her administrative assistants going on maternity leave for 3 months, which developed into an offer to fill the position during her vacation. It was wordy, as if her boss was trying to pressure her into agreeing. After reading, I put the sheets down and went to get beer. Under pressure, I accepted their offer. I start on Monday. As I see it, I can fly out on Sunday and return home on Friday evening. The corporation found me a furnished apartment which they rented for a while. The monthly payment was cheaper than the weekly one, Emily explained. As I opened the beer, I noticed that the papers were missing. "Emily, where are the papers?" "I haven't finished reading yet," I asked. She took them out of her briefcase. "Sorry, I thought you were done," she said. As soon as she turned to me, her cell phone rang. When she answered, he said it was her boss. John from the office left the room. I went into the office and scanned the papers into a Canon printer, sending them to my personal laptop. While I was waiting for her, I thought about this. She didn't understand what I saw. Who called it was Rebecca Davis. Everything she had told me so far had been a deliberate lie. For some reason she didn't want me to know the truth. I texted Sophia to let her know what I found out. Emily speaks on the phone with her new boss, Rebecca Davis, at the corporate office in Boston. A few minutes later she responded that she had found the information available on Google on the corporation's website. I sent a message to a distant cousin who lives in the area to see if he had heard anything. Emily still hadn't returned, so I moved on to her briefcase. While I listened for her return, I began to search. It was mostly empty, as I expected. A notebook contained a Boston address and phone number with no name. I quickly took a photo of it with my mobile and closed it. Sorry, there's been a change of plans. I'll have to fly out early Sunday morning, Emily said when she returned. Don just informed me that Rebecca Davis will meet me personally to help me settle in before my first day on the job. It's already decided, isn't it? I said firmly. Michael, it's not like that. Emily replied, actually it is. You're too relaxed for it to be sudden. It makes it clear that there's something you're not telling me. If it was really last minute, you'd be in a panic, I said, colliding with her at that moment. I saw a look on her face that I had not seen for many years. The last time it appeared was when I told her that Mike Johnson had claimed an affair. Then he also claimed that our second son was not mine. And the dust settled on the story. We learned that he was trying to scam us all for family money. I grabbed the car keys and headed to the door. Where are you going? Emily finally asked, showing concern for our sons so they don't have to walk home. I shouted. It took me 10 minutes to get to school. I stopped by the office to let them know that I was there unexpectedly to pick up my sons. They will let them know during announcements. At the end of the day, I checked our bank accounts. There's no unaccounted money. Since we didn't use checks to pay bills, I put a late notice on it. No check will be honored without my approve. I have also asked them to limit cash withdrawals at any branch except this one. My 3 little angels were pleasantly surprised. After we loaded them up, we went to Dairy Queen for ice cream. After that we went to a nearby park so they could eat the burgers and fries they convinced me to buy for them. We had a conversation between father and sons. It was obvious that they had no idea about their mother's upcoming trip. We were out of the house for almost half an hour. I called Emily, but her cell phone was busy. I wondered if I would return home to get another version. Dad, what's wrong? Asked Jack, my eldest. Your mom called me at home to tell me she accepted a 3-month position in the corporate office she's leaving. Sunday morning. I said she told me it just happened this week. Other sources say that's not the case. I'm told it's a permanent promotion and that she's already been in the position for at least 6 months. My 3 sons showed the same face. It was a face of complete shock. Mom and you are getting divorced? Asked then my middle one. You had an affair? Did your mom find out? Oh my God. I thought it came from the mouth of a baby. No, I didn't have an affair. But thank you for asking. There are no signs of a possible divorce, since none of our funds are missing. The only thing I know for sure is that she was lying. I replied, so when we get home all we know is that what your mom told me might not be true. Could it be that the people you were talking to are lying? David asked, listen to this and then tell me what you think. I watched my 3 sons as they listened to me talk to the receptionist in my wife's office. Sometimes it's better when you can let others form their own opinions. Everyone saw her leave for work. Dad, Ben said, what did she do this week in her free time? Your guess is as good as mine, because I honestly don't know. I replied. I can find out what's going on, but I'll have to hire professionals and that will take time. For now, boys, learns. We need to decide what to do. We can't stop her from leaving, no matter what. We don't have enough information to make a serious decision. I hate it when you tell us to wait and see. David said. Because you have to find out if you can do it before you agree here. You can't find out and you might not get the information you need. Perhaps Mom is the one who's having an affair. Ben said. Or maybe she's haunted and needs care. Just then my cell phone rang. It was my wife. Where are you? She asked. At the park. The kids are eating burgers and fries. They all got ice cream. I figured, since it was unannounced, you'd need all the time to get ready. I said that way. You don't have to cook. We decide how we as a family will handle things while you're gone. Why didn't you call me to let me know? You're making it sound like I'm not coming back. Emily said in her defense. You know that's not true. I wanted to scream, but I bit my tongue as I listened to her. I asked myself why she said this. Was it a mental lapse? The kids will tell you that I tried to call you twice. You were busy talking to someone on the phone. I told them about your plans. They are also wondering what is going on because you were to con. I replied, we'll see you when we get home. I wrote a message to Sophia, asking her to find out who lived at this address and to verify the phone number, including a photo of it. In less than 5 minutes, she answered that this was Rebecca Davis's home and mobile number. It was heartbreaking to watch my children talk to their mother. Each of them tried very hard to get their mother to tell them the truth. We just heard her repeating the same thing over and over again. One Sunday morning, after we saw her leave on the plane, I began to relax. Little did my wife know that my father and I had hired a private investigator to follow her. My mom and dad came over on Sunday to see how we were doing. It was difficult for my children to accept the fact that their mother had been lying to all of us for over 6 months. No matter what you say to your child, he automatically assumes this is his fault sometimes. My own mother had to leave her room to hide her emotions. On Monday after I dropped my sons off, I drove around the block, parked the car and walked back. I asked to speak with the boys' parenting consultant, Emily Wilson. I explained what had happened over the weekend and asked to keep an eye on them in case their emotions got out of hand and they couldn't cope. She said she wouldn't praise me for being observant of their needs. When I returned to the office, I read that Sophia had found out about Rebecca Davis. Her father was the chairman of the board of directors. She herself made her way through the corporation after joining it as an actuary. She was now president, a position she had held for years. It was a tough week, but my kids and I made it through. Two women we sometimes hired agreed to help. They came and cleaned the house and did Ellie twice a week. Emily called the boys twice and me once. She arrived home on Saturday morning and flew out on Sunday afternoon. The total time at home due to plane schedules was less than 24 hours after she left. All my sons discussed among themselves why she even came home. It was as if she was there, but she wasn't. Her mind was occupied with other things. She was their mother, but she wasn't. They couldn't argue with what they were saying. I tried to hug her and ran into a cold ball of ice. I realized that her family was extremely quiet during this time, which made me wonder what they were told. We had just arrived at our house when my cell phone rang in the car. It was my father. Hey Dad, we just saw Emily off. I thought I'd take my sons out for pizza later. Want to join? I said, not giving him a chance to speak. No, I just wanted to remind you that we have an appointment with the lawyer tomorrow morning at 9 to discuss this hardware store I want to purchase. He said, hey, boys, Grandma and Grandpa sending you our love. In the back seat the boys and he talked for a while as I drove them to our favorite pizzeria. My father took my cue and changed the conversation. I thought it was well played. Later, after the boys had showered and gone to bed, I called him. He got the first report. Michael, it's not as bad as we thought. My father said this is worse. The affair began long before her month-long training there. We have videos of them together in restaurants dancing, holding hands and showing public affection in a very intimate way. They were even caught on video going into an adult store and buying erotic toys. I was devastated, but I needed to know what's his name. Dad, and what does he do? It's not him, Michael. It's her boss, Rebecca Davis. They lived together, as wife and wife said. My father Emily took off her wedding ring. As soon as she got on the plane for the first time, I dropped my cell phone unable to speak. I was emotionally drained from somewhere. Jack picked up the phone. He told his grandfather that I was broken. I think he forced his grandfather to tell him the truth. We spent the next few hours just crying together until there were no more tears left. Mom and Dad arrived at 6:00 in the morning to find Jack and me still holding each other as we slept on the living room couch after making coffee. They woke us up. I was still waking up and gathering my strength when Jack spoke. Grandpa, am I old enough to sue these people with my lawyer? Can I sue their employer and both of them together or separately? Jack asked my parents and I was stunned. His remark was the last thing we expected. Yes, I think so. But we will have to verify it with a lawyer qualified in this field before I give you a definitor. His grandfather replied, Where did this come from? With my dad's approval. I'm studying law as an elective in school. Jack said I'm going to legally destroy Rebecca and my mother if I can. I've had my learner permit for almost 2 years now, but I won't be able to get my unrestricted driver's license until I'm 18. My goal is to become a lawyer. This comment woke me up. I entered the office and turned on the computer. I went to Facebook and entered my wife's name. This created the Facebook pages. The first I knew about. The second I didn't. Her mistake was that she used the same photo. It opened 8 months ago. When Dad saw this, he called the private investigation firm and left a message saying what we had found. Within an hour it was hacked. They listed pages and pages of times and places of events, which were also confirmed by Rebecca Davis's Facebook page. Both can be used in court. The couple confessed to their 8-month unconventional relationship on their personal Facebook pages. Each page declared the other as a spouse. Emily's second Facebook page made no mention of either the children or me. I didn't realize that Jack was reading it at the same time as me moms living double lives. Jack said in my ear. The question I have to ask is which one is the real one? Her mom made brunch for all of you. After that, we told Ben and David everything we knew. I called the school and told them all my sons would be missing. While I was dealing with the situation, my oldest son handed me the phone. It's Emily Wilson and I don't know what to say. I said stay with your brothers. I'll be back soon. I headed into the office and closed the door. Oh, Miss Wilson. I said, how can I help you today? I noticed that the children were called in for a day off. I was wondering if this had anything to do with what we were talking about. She said yes. We found out that she had been having an affair for at least the last 8 months. I said we found out about it last night after she left. At that time we were trying to understand why she came at all, because she was so far away and lost. And I asked if he is older or younger. Miss Wilson asked any ideas on how I should approach this. If asked with kid gloves and baby steps, it's quite a long time, it's more difficult. I explained my wife is not having an affair with a man but with her female boss. Damn it. Sorry for that oversight. Your sons and you must be devastated. She replied for a straight man. It must have hurt you as much as it did my parents. When my brother came out, I was on the phone. Jack went to bed when I found out I was getting my first information from the detective's report. I couldn't stand it and dropped the phone. Jack found me and asked the person who called what was going on. It wasn't a good night for either of us. "Add my name to your contact list," said Emily Wilson. "If your wife hid this part of herself in plain sight, you can expect that you had been slandered by your common family and friends." I told Dad what Emily Wilson said, then I had to explain who she was. He called our divorce lawyers and arranged a meeting for us at 1:00 that same day. All 3 of my sons were getting ready to go. The company sent me an email with an attached file and we printed the pages. It was 8 months of their Facebook pages, proving that their relationship began long before the so-called month-long training. It was interesting to watch my oldest son use his knowledge of civil law to ask questions in a way that seemed to baffle the divorce lawyer. It became clear that all of my sons were of legal age to file a claim for the disruption of family ties against Rebecca Davis and the insurance company if their HR guidelines were violated. I wrote to Sophia asking if she could find a way to get a copy of it. She replied that she had already taken care of it. Last week, my distant cousin had sent me a copy of it, along with a detailed explanation of what she knew about Rebecca and Emily's relationship. 20 minutes later, the lawyers were studying it. This only applied to those who were in the corporation. Sophia's distant cousin provided us with a wealth of information. I played the recorded conversation with the receptionist, which I saved. Between Facebook Messenger chats, emails Emily provided to me, and my recorded conversations, we could prove that they had their positions at the firm as a tool to manipulate me and my sons for at least 6 months. As a result, each of my sons will sue for breaking the family bond against my wife, her mistress, and their employee RS. I filed for divorce from Emily on the grounds of abandonment and adultery, her mistress for interfering with the marriage, destroying family ties, and her employer for not adhering to its own human relations policies. The most important point was that one of the defendants was the president of the company. They could not claim that they did not know about the situation. We were all shocked when Jack said we needed a court order that would make it impossible for Rebecca Davis and Emily Ray to be fired from their jobs until all the court cases were resolved. We didn't want the corporation to sacrifice those to reduce its liability. Our team of divorce lawyers was shocked. It was a move they wouldn't have thought of, but it made sense. We left the lawyer's office at 3:00, so the 4 of us went out for an early dinner. David, always sharp on Ed, said we needed to get new cell phone numbers but keep these ones active, but switched off until they were delivered. This way, if our mother tries to contact us, it will go to voicemail. Everyone turned off their cell phones. Now Jack said we did it. He collected them and asked our waiter to take them to the hostess. We'll pick them up when we leave. Dad, when you told me what Emily Wilson said this morning, it made me think the lawyer said they planned it well for our own protection. We should assume the same. Jack said, due to the risks associated with the dark web, all of our computer devices and any other items that may be connected to the internet remain turned off and unplugged until they are professionally scanned for viruses. After dinner, after we picked up our phones, I locked them in a trunk. While we were on our way to see our cut to get new numbers and phones, I decided to buy one extra and not activate it before the boys went to school. On Tuesday morning, I gave Jack an extra cell phone from Miss Wilson and asked her to explain why. On Tuesday morning I went to the bank, cancelled all of our joint credit cards, withdrew all remaining money from all of our joint bank accounts, essentially closing them. I removed my name from them. I placed the funds in 90-day certificates of deposit in the names of my wife and me. The bank provided me with printed proof of everything I did. After copying the set for myself, I took them to the lawyer's office. On Friday morning at 9:00 Boston time, I sent my wife Emily a recorded telephone conversation with her former colleague from my old cell phone. It said, "This is the last time I say I love you." Then I did a factory reset on all of our old phones. I made sure all contact information was removed from them before leaving them at the local park. Emily was with Rebecca when she received the text message. They both overheard this conversation with her former office. Emily said, "Damn. He found out about my real job at 9:15 in the morning Boston time. As instructed, the waiter handed them everything at the corporate office in Boston wearing a video camera." Emily was shocked when she opened the envelope she had just received. It included a notice that Michael was filing for divorce on the grounds of adultery and abandonment because a Facebook page claimed she was in a spousal relationship with Rebecca Davis. He knew everything. It contained 4 pages of details that would be presented on the first day of trial. They even listed the adult store they went to and what they bought. At 9:00 in the morning, our time, I went into the office of our cellular operator to report that the phones were missing and asked that the numbers be cancelled. On Monday morning I paid the current bill in full. Sophia and I were reviewing what I had done. I wanted her to check with fresh eyes in case I forgot something. "Do you understand that sooner or later they will have to come to you?" Sophia said their legal problems are in the state. I don't think they understand that your sons are of legal age to have their own legal representatives. Luckily, we're one of the few states where you can still sue for breaking family ties. I can imagine what Emily will be doing. She'll be calling our old numbers trying to get in touch, looking for a way to get out of this situation. I said I have arranged for copies of her lovers and her Facebook pages to be delivered to her parents, her sisters and her brother today. Once they open them, there will be no denying from her side of the family what she did. What does your son want out of all this? Sophia asked. Jack wants revenge. You can't thinking about the mental state I was in that night. No one deserves to be treated like that. Ben and David believe their mother deliberately abandoned us, all I explained. All three of them feel like they need this confrontation. They're having a hard time getting over the fact that their mother lied to them about everything for so long. David puts it well. If she did this to us out of love, what will she do to us if she hates us? I could see Sophia digesting my words as a mother of daughters. She's seen it from both sides. I could see the pain and sadness she was feeling. Michael Emily may not realize it now, but if she does, she's lost touch with her sons forever. Sophia said there is no turning back from here. The scars of your sons will forever remain deep in their souls. Sophia, I didn't see it, but you're right. I said the worst thing I ever saw was when two girls who hated each other got into a fight. They were dirty, cool, vengeful and wanted revenge. When two men fight, it's over. And it's over. A woman never forgets and doesn't let go. Does she, boss? She replied. You are a very wise man sometimes. Jack Thomas went to school that Friday morning, only to be called out of class during his first period into Emily Wilson's office borrowing a friend's laptop. The night before, he scanned all copies of his two brothers and his own documents related to their lawsuit against Sun America Life Insurance and their two employees, Emily Ray and Rebecca Davis. All information from Facebook was also scanned. He also sent a copy of the court order requiring Sun America Life Insurance to keep two employees in their current positions until all legal matters are resolved. After transferring the data to the flash drive that was ready. Are you sure you want to do this? Asked Emily Wilson. If we continue, we won't be able to undo this. Everything on that flash drive is already in court records. Jack said what makes this a news story is that in the eyes of society we are still minor children. I have a one-page letter with my signature explaining that as a law student in the 12th grade, I found a state law that had allowed my brothers and me to take this action. Emily Wilson opened the new email address with a fake name and started a new email. Typing a few words brought up the email addresses of 26 different news organizations. After downloading the data provided by Jack, she typed in the topic 3 underage children taking on corporate America. In the body of the letter, she wrote attachments of the legal complaint against Sun America Life, Rebecca Davis, President, and Emily Ray, Regional Manager, filed by Jack, Ben, and David Thomas. After checking everything, she clicked send. Jack then watched as she closed the email account. When it hits the media, it only takes one for it to become big news. Emily said it will cause a domino effect depending on how this plays out. That's what I'm counting on. Jack said, I want the woman who was once my mother destroyed. Thank you. I'll go back to class. Emily had become attached to Jack. Everything works out. He will become a prominent lawyer in the field of law that he chooses. Emily wasn't sure if Jack understood that the publicity he was creating could cause Sun America livestock price to drop. Some make alter their policies on impulse after they have received the service. On this day, Sun America Life will begin to rush to check and study the civil law of divorce, because it will not be their specialty. Jack seems to be trying to corner them. So far he has performed brilliantly. 2 hours later it became the main news of the day. Local branches were inundated with calls demanding that policies be cancelled. Business talk shows began discussing the damage caused by the lawsuit against the president. As a result, the stock prices began to fall. It was discovered that Rebecca Davis had been in an open relationship for many years. Emily had been trying to call her husband ever since he texted her cell phone, went to voicemail or gave a busy signal. When she called his office, she was told that he was away from work all day. Everyone in the corporate office was in panic mode. Emily and Rebecca expected a divorce, but not this way. She was so careful keeping everything separate. Emily Wilson should have called Michael Ray. 3 film crews appeared. Luckily, he answered on the first ring. "Sorry to bother you, Michael." Emily said, "We have a problem that we must solve." "Are the boys okay?" I asked her. "They're fine." Emily replied Jack found a way to expose a pending court case to the mainstream media, assuming it would blow up tonight or tomorrow. Emily explained, "We already have 3 news teams and more are expected." "Gab," I said honestly. "Any suggestions except to come and escort them?" "Not really," said Emily. "We're going to have to face them sooner or later. Anyway, I'll gather them here in my office, so the 4 of you can discuss how you're going to handle this. I'll be there as soon as possible. Keep an eye on me, because I may have to play the role of my life." I said I parked my car in the teacher parking lot and got out heading towards the main doors. I heard a voice from the crowd of news people say it was the father. 10 minutes later my sons and I left. Jack walked straight towards the news reporters. We all stood next to him. "I will only make one statement on behalf of the family until the court case is over. We will not be giving interviews or answering questions while the case is before the court. Let me know when you are ready." Jack said the media organized themselves and gave him the signal to begin. My family and I discovered that my father's wife and our mother, Emily Ray, had been leading a double life for at least 8 months. The question we all had to ask ourselves was which life was real and which was fake. It's a fact that she couldn't be honest with the 4 of us about what was really going on in her personal life and work situation. This forced us to hire a detective agency. They discovered that she was living in Boston with a woman named Rebecca Davis in a spousal relationship. They both publicly acknowledged their relationship through recently discovered Facebook pages. Jack stated this begs the question, are they legally married? If so, then my mother, Emily Ray, is a bigamist. Because Emily Ray never intended to tell us the truth. We as a family are forced to believe that in her eyes we are a liar that she considers not real. We've learned that Rebecca Davis is not only her lover and boss, but also the president of Sun America Life. It makes us wonder if Emily Ray got her promotion by willingly spreading her legs for her. If she did, that makes her nothing more than an accessible woman who gets paid for her service. Jack said was my mother's lover. Her entire adult life was my father just a front because she wanted children. Did she ever love him? Did she ever love us? Why can't she identify us as her sons in her other life? Is she ashamed of even creating us? The brothers agree that, based on what we have learned, the woman we knew as Emily Ray, our mother, has died. This new reinvention of Emily Ray is not known to us and never will be. That's why the mess that Mrs. Thomas and Mrs. Green created is going to court. We turned and walked back to my car. I had mixed feelings from pride for my son to shock Jack raised both moral and legal issues that I had never thought about, in a way that any possibility that Emily had was destroyed forever. We made the 2-hour drive to make sure we weren't being followed. Each of us was lost in our own thoughts. My father checked all of our electronic devices to make sure they were safe to use. Nothing was found. Rebecca called Emily on her cell phone, telling her that things had gone from bad to worse. Something just exploded on television that you need to see. Emily walked into her office. Rebecca hugged her tenderly, saying, "Remember that I love you." She rewound and paused the TV when Emily said she was ready. She pressed play. It began with her husband and 3 sons leaving the main entrance of their school by the end of the world. It was broken. Her eldest son with one statement about the situation destroyed it, detailing everything she had done in her life. No matter what she tried, Rebecca could not calm her down. We stopped to eat at a small diner about an hour away. When I went to pay the bill, I was told that everything had already been paid. I paid anyway, and the man said he was the owner and wanted to thank our family for what your son said today. Your son was speaking to a society that needed to see the other side of it. Maybe my ex's opinion will change if she hears this son America life story. We're furious. Emily's son raised questions that no one could honestly answer. And they knew it. One person's morality is different from another's. Was Emily promoted for spreading her legs? Sylvia wasn't. The question is how to prove that this didn't happen. What was most infuriating was that a 123G grade student studying law one course a day raised questions that left no doubt that the corporation was trapped. Many attorneys couldn't package them that well. They were desperate without Kiss. It really hurt. The school principal called all the teachers for an emergency meeting as soon as the school day ended, knowing that being a Friday, the school would be empty in minutes. The director was proud. He turned on the TV and showed a video of Jack speaking to reporters. Emily Wilson was very impressed. Jack took her advice to heart. To do this, she had to make every effort to remain focused, determined and strong. The director then called her attention when he said they asked about her 20 times. Today she was offered to grants if she planned to practice law. Others have requested information about our school because they are interested in sponsoring. I just want to say well done to Mr. Jim Spears and Emily Wilson for their participation. One for teaching law so effectively and the other for mentoring her. Emily finally calmed down enough to try calling Jack's cell phone. He called and was answered. Hey, the price is 40 for a quarter. I'm in my usual place, said the voice that she didn't recognize. Who are you and what are you doing with my son's phone? Asked Emily. The person on the other end ended the call. She went to her original Facebook page and tried to contact her son. That way, she soon discovered that she had been unfriended and blocked. She repeated the same process with her other sons to find them in the same way. It was safe to assume that we would have done the same. She calls her parents home. The father answered. Ed, hello. Dad said Emily, hello. Emily. The father answered. Let me make this clear. We saw the statement of our grandsons. We've seen printed Facebook pages of both your lovers and yours. We'll send them to all of us and we remember the reason you told us why you were leaving. We'll allow a daughter. But I have to agree with my grandson. He no longer knows who you are. Emily. You were dead to us with that. The father hung up. Emily lost consciousness again. Instead of going home, my sons and I went to spend the night with their grandfather. We all bought enough clothes to last us through the weekend. This gave us a chance to renew our cooperation. I texted Emily Wilson to let her know we were okay and where we were. I sat in my father's office and just looked at what I didn't know. My son's comments to a reporter made me question my entire marriage under a microscope, trying to figure out what truths I could live with. When my mother came in, it wasn't all a lie, my mother said quietly. If that were the case, your sons would not be standing next to you. It's normal that you question everything. Keep in mind that you had a good life until Emily became emotionally involved with Rebecca. What does emotion have to do with it? I asked, do you think it was emotion or desire that started the romance? At first, I would say it was friendship, then desire. My mother said apparently they were at 147 when Emily was at the head office. Their friendship grew. They came close. It only takes drinking too much for something to happen. If this happens at first, there is a feeling of guilt and shame. Emily may have drunk more to ease the pain, giving Rebecca the opportunity to begin seducing her mind. It starts with a gentle touch or a gentle caress to show that you care. Are you suggesting that what Emily did was not intentional? I said, starting to raise my voice. Not right away. Look, no one plans to fall in love. It just happens. Mom said in the end she acted deliberately. I don't think she thought about the price she would have to pay. Otherwise she would not have ended the marriage in this way. Emily planned all this. The two of them made up a story that they thought us suckers would buy. They planned for us to slowly grow apart until one day someone would appear to serve me. I said this way Emily could hide their relationship until the divorce was over and keep their secrets safe. Once our sons accepted the divorce, Rebecca will be introduced to them as a close friend. How did you know that? Mom asked seriously. Her brother called me this morning after receiving copies of Rebecca and Emily's 8-month relationship. He explained that Emily told them a week before she left. When Emily was undergoing training, she found out that I was having an affair. I revealed. According to Emily, we have been trying to work things out for the last two months, but we have nothing. He came out. That's why she's leaving me. Do your sons know about this? Mom asked. Now we know, said 3 voices. Mom and I both turned and looked. All 3 of my sons heard everything. Damn it. Dad, Mom was grooming you to be a scapegoat. Ben said if she had walked away with it, and would have believed her. She wanted to ruin a relationship with you. David said. I looked at my mother. Her face was white. I rushed and caught her before she fell. Dad and I got up early on Saturday. We went to check out my house. The reporters were sitting there waiting for us. We finally drove past a nearby dealership. We earned to find even more people sitting there. Good thing I shorted some Sun America livestock. On Thursday we're going to need funds to buy a new house. Dad said unless we can find a way to keep those dogs away from us. Go to the dealership. Dad, I'll go out and talk to them. We both know what I'm going to say. We reached Emily and her mistress, so let's give them something to think about. He pulled in and I got out of the car and walked up to the reporters. I made sure that our dealership name would be visible behind me if I was being filmed. How are your sons holding up? Asked an ABC spokesman. Like most children, I think at first they blame themselves. Then, as they understand and accept, they begin to ask themselves if everything their mother taught them was a lie. I said they're looking to me for answers, and unfortunately I don't have them. It's something that can't be easily explained. How did you find out, was the next question. My wife texted me 2 weeks ago on Friday and said, come home. We need to talk. I replied, where are you? She said, on her way home. Something didn't seem right, so I called where she worked. Let me replay the conversation. They listened to it. You must understand that at that time I was still convinced that she was only an assistant branch manager and nothing more. She told me when I returned home that she was under pressure to be sent to corporate headquarters for 3 months to replace a woman who was going on maternity leave. Now we know that none of this was true. I said on the Friday after my son's statement. Her uncle, my wife's brother, called me to tell me what Emily told them. It turns out that Emily found out that I was having an affair while she was at headquarters for a month. She returned home unexpectedly, her last attempt to save our marriage, but it didn't work out. So she's leaving me, I continued. It seems that Rebecca Davis and Emily were conspiring against me to make me extreme. Emily was going to continue to travel back and forth, gradually creating the impression that frequent flying was making our relationship difficult and causing us to grow apart from each other. She was going to file for divorce and give notice to me as soon as it started to seem like I've stopped trying that way. Once our sons accepted the divorce, Rebecca could be introduced to their family and our children. As a dear friend, I explained they failed when we discovered their duplicate Facebook pages. I finished. Do you think they were trying to make it appear that you weren't cooperating with her? Asked the reporter. It seems like if they could blame me for ruining our marriage, they could damage my relationship with my parents and sons forever. I said firmly, for what purposes? I don't know. Maybe you can find a way to ask them. Was their goal to use my sons as weapons against me? From what I know, it certainly seems like that. I said, did Rebecca want to introduce my sons to an unconventional lifestyle in every way, like she did with my wife with that? I walked back to my dad's car and got inside. My father had a huge smile. He heard everything well. The fact that you worked on commission for a year definitely paid off, he said proudly. You ask questions in their minds that they will try to answer for days without making accusations. You did it in such a way that you presented yourself as a man who was simply trying to protect his sons. For the first time in days I laughed, Dad. There is no chance that any judge will allow Rebecca or Emily to talk to these boys without a third party present. True. But the fact that you frame Rebecca as the aggressor puts extra pressure on the organization. Its professionalism and personal relationships. Implying that she might be homosexual was pure genius. It also puts more responsibility on the corporation itself. He pointed out we got home just in time to join the ladies for brunch. We explained that reporters were still camped outside our home and dealership. My mom decided it would be a girl shopping day out of town. Dad was going to play golf, which is clearly not my game, so I thought I'd spend a few hours in the office. Dad told me to use his truck if I wanted to go out in case they were watching my car. I was just about to leave when Miss Wilson called. She wanted to talk about the boy and their return to school on Monday, suggesting they meet and discuss it over lunch. I agreed because the company of someone outside the family was just what I needed. I told her to text me her address and I would pick her up. I hope you don't mind. I said I'm wearing jeans. She laughed and said that was fine too. I got out of my dad's truck and walked up to her door. Emily heard me knock and opened the door. I recorded your statement to the media this morning. I thought it was brilliant. Would you like to watch? It asked Emily Wilson with pleasure. I replied. Emily turned on her DirecTV system. Once she found it, she hit play. It was short, direct and clear. I looked like I had no answers, had some knowledge of what was done, but not why this has been a topic of discussion on most talk shows all day, raising questions about their behavior. This recorded phone conversation shows how insidious their behavior was towards you. It made you untouchable. Emily laughed, stressing that is as far as your family knew. You all didn't know what was going on until the last 14 days. Really all I was trying to do was take the media attention away from my family. I said I'm driving my dad's truck because they sat in front of our house last night, so we couldn't even get home. Any idea what you'd like for dinner? She knew the place was not very famous, so we could enjoy some privacy. Emily told me about what happened at school yesterday after I took my sons out. I was surprised, but told her that I knew Jack planned to continue practicing law. He asked how they were handling the situation. We've all had moments when all that raw grief comes out. They were devastated to learn that their mother had falsely accused me of having an affair and used it as an excuse to explain why our marriage ended. Emily said it must be hard to take. I said it made me better understand what political people face every day. The truth really doesn't matter. It all depends on someone's feelings. I don't know Emily and Rebecca's motives or plans. I just know that I have to keep pushing because none of them have shown that they are willing to tell the truth. I said we ended up with a long walk in the local park before I took her home. It was nice to have someone to talk to, who wouldn't judge but would offer support when needed. Emily became my friend. Everyone returned home to my father. When I returned, the boys had a wonderful day shopping. The children all hugged me. David whispered, "Dad, I smell a note of a woman's perfume. Who is she?" "It was just a friend," I said. Mom gave me a beer and whispered in my ear, suggesting that I come into the den and watch some news. Things are getting interesting. If you ever want to stir things up, just ask questions that can't be answered. Liberals and socialists thrive on this. My short statement diverted media attention from the political topic of the day. They spent time discussing the morality of my family situation. How will the courts view what most now believe is a direct attempt by Rebecca Davis and Emily Ray to expose children to unconventional lifestyles? Will this be considered corruption? It was noted that lovers tried to undermine me with what they knew. Rebecca was devastated. Her father called to report Emily's husband's announcement saying that the board of directors was calling an emergency meeting. His perception of what was happening raised many questions. As a result, Emily and she watched TV waiting for it to show again. And they watched it. They knew that I knew Emily's husband's questions were very harmful, especially when he questioned what Rebecca had planned for his children. "The only thing keeping my career in place is a damn court order," admitted Rebecca. "If the board could fire me right now, they would." He looks like a man who has no answers, just a lot of questions, who is trying his best to protect his children. Emily said, "It's all my fault because I couldn't tell you that I stopped loving him. Long ago, before I met you, I wrote a message to the father about the ages of your sons. Rebecca said to make it clear that almost all of them are adults. Your husband was smart. He knew how the media would play it out. True. But the reason for all this was the way I handled my situation. You and I both know this. I overthought and lied to use people's pain. They get what I deserve. You're innocent. We both know that I pursued you because with you I could allow the hidden me to come out. Emily said it took you much longer than it did for me to come to the realization that you can no longer live a lie. I was attracted to you for years, but I had no idea. So I kept my distance. Finding you in that gay bar that night. Sitting alone signaled me to find out the moment you sat down that night and joined me. I knew that's why I invited you to my hotel or home. Rebecca replied, making love that night freed me. The next morning I realized that I would never be able to return to the shell from which I had freed myself. Emily replied, I understand. But the cost of this has not yet been determined. Rebecca said, Michael, your husband is understandably offended, like your 3 sons, but for different reasons. Your behavior makes them question who and what they are. Michael would have to believe that in your eyes, he was nothing more than a piece of crap that you had been using for 20+ years. This truth has killed many people and driven some to suicide. But I love him, but I was never in love with him. Emily said this is what the woman who was caught sleeping with her own brother by her husband is saying to explain her actions. Rebecca said it doesn't matter what you say or do right now. All you're going to do is dig yourself a deeper hole. What should I do? I still want a relationship with my sons. Michael will always be in their lives. Emily explained we have to somehow solve this problem. Rebecca said everyone at home was shown what Michael knows. You made things difficult by lying to your family and placing the blame on your husband. Rebecca said he does what he does because you gave him no choice, not out of revenge. You directly defamed his name to protect your reputation. Your sons are your main problem. They see you destroy your whole family, so you can be with me. Rebecca watched as Emily became lost and thought, on the knowing what she could say. Emily's behavior, no matter how you look at it, changed relationships and lives forever. The problem was that Emily always loved Michael as a brother and not as a lover. So when they made love, he gave her all the physical, emotional and mental parts. He made love. In her eyes, it was nothing more than a physical act to satisfy her desire. She could see it. Emily could not. She felt sorry for Michael. He didn't deserve this. No one did that when Rebecca noticed a crowd of media representatives in front of their house. Michael and Jack managed to attract media attention. I was surprised to see someone in the real estate office on Sunday. Amy Johnson recognized me immediately. We studied together at school. I asked her to provide me with comparisons for homes like mine on the local market. She quickly provided me with a few pages. I listed my house for 22 points euro above the average price. She agreed to communicate directly with my wife while I was signing the paperwork. She looked up and got the phone number for Sun America headquarters. I took out the envelope and handed it to her. This is a handwritten letter giving my wife the right to come in and take what she wants from the house before it is sold. Inform her that my sons and I will remove our clothes and personal items by the end of this week. But she does not want will stay with the house. I said you have my contact information. I'm looking for a house with 4 bedrooms, a pool, a lot of privacy. Michael, is the house only in your name or do I need her permission to sell? Asked Amy. It's in my name only. So let her know that the funds will be held in trust by my lawyers until the divorce is finalized. I'm not going to do anything that gives her the opportunity to sue me. I want this to end. Emily has already offended us enough. Either way, this is an equal property division state. Amy Johnson watched Michael leave after saying goodbye. Michael was in a lot of pain. If Emily was a woman who liked women all her life, she hid it well. No one knew if it was just an affair then. Damn, why did she advertise it on Facebook like she did? The whole situation didn't make sense, and unfortunately for Michael it never would. I was in my office early Monday morning alone. I had just poured coffee from a fresh mug I made when the phone rang. Thomas Hardware Stores, good morning. How may I help you? I asked. A man's voice replied. I would like to speak to Michael Ray. Please. You're talking to him, I replied. May I ask, who is calling? I am Charles Anthony Green, Chairman of the Board of Directors of Sun America Life, and if you agree, I would like to speak with you informally about what I asked to keep this mess that my daughter and your wife have created out of the media. He said we didn't publish the material in the first place. I said it was in the public domain here in the area. My son and I were just trying to calm the situation. As of this morning, it looks like we may be able to go home, since the media seemed to have left. I was told it was orchestrated by our legal team. I explained to me what happened on Friday about 11 in the morning, he continued. That day, I received a call from Emily Wilson who, at my request, was keeping an eye on them in case of emotional outbursts. When she called, there were 3 Alpha News crews at the door. She asked me to take them out of the school. I said that was the first time we knew there was a problem. The school asked us to try to get them to leave, because it was disrupting classes. My eldest son made a statement, and we left. I didn't know what he was going to say after we left. They left too. Your son was cold, determined and angry. Her statements were mainly aimed at her mother. He should be proud. Charles Green said she raised questions like you that can't be answered, but both were done to show your wife and my daughter what their behavior implied. I agree it's a hell of a mess, and that's only part of the problem. The lies that were told were to protect themselves. It was premeditated and planned. Just so you know, I have received signed statements from Emily's family saying she left me because she discovered that I was having an affair while she was in Boston. This last visit home was a vacation for 2 months, so she could try to save our marriage. I explained. You know that I have 6 pages of email correspondence between your daughter and my wife over 5 days with their corporate email addresses, which was essentially a deception to make me think that Emily was pressured into accepting a temporary position at headquarters for 3 months. Honestly, I had no idea. Charles Green said I'm going to a board meeting about this right now. I didn't even know they were lovers until it came out. Now I understand why you both asked the questions you did in your situation. I would too. I don't know what the council will decide, whether it was you or your son who requested the injunction preventing us from firing them. He said with a laugh. She made our legal team look like incompetent fools. If it weren't for the injunction, Rebecca and Emily would be fired right now. Thank you for talking. Now I can be honest with what I know. He concluded. I had a huge smile on my face when Sophia walked in, so I had to explain. Do you realize, Michael, that he could have been lying to get you out? Sophia said, why do you think I told him about Rebecca and Emily's letters if he knew about them and found out that I made copies? It strengthens the fact that they acted together to deceive me. If he didn't know, he will soon have copies of them in his own hands. I explained he can't prove that we got the media involved because if it were us, the media would have already found it out. Michael, be careful. They'll be looking for any legal clue to get out of the situation. Sophia reminded him Amy Johnson just got off the phone with Emily Ray. The conversation went surprisingly smoothly. Both behaved professionally. Amy could tell Emily was shocked to hear the house was for sale. Amy explained that after this weekend, she would appreciate it if Emily took what she wanted as soon as possible, since she needed to know what would be left with the house after the sale. Emily was surprised to learn that after the deal was closed, a check would be made out to the lawyers and held until the divorce was finalized. Emily asked her how Michael was taking it. Amy refused to answer but told her that her soon-to-be ex-husband and her sons were forced to move because of mainstream media. Amy wanted Emily to realize the damage she was doing to the rest of her family. I explained. The board of directors met behind closed doors for several hours. The share price continued to fall. The head of the legal department had to tell them everything step by step. It was clear that until the court cases were resolved, Rebecca and Emily could not be fired. Hell, they couldn't even be transferred to other positions. The council decided to try mediation first before going to court on all matters except Emily and Michael Ray divorce. It was decided to write a statement to the media to cool the situation. Breaking through the media crowd to leave their front door was a nightmare for the two lovers. Someone took a photo of Emily with a shocked expression and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "The moment you get caught." This led to a full-page story about the entire situation with unnamed sources. Emily learned from the newspapers that no one in her family wanted anything to do with her anymore because of the damage her actions had caused. Rebecca said it would take time for things to settle before they could start fixing things. I was surprised to receive an advanced copy of Sun America Life statement, which admitted that the only reason Rebecca and Emily were not fired was that a court order forced them to remain in their jobs until the legal cases were resolved. They spent a long time trying to shift public opinion by emphasizing that they did not condone any adult's deliberate attempts to corrupt a minor. What happened in this case may never be known, but the visibility of this ongoing situation makes it clear that it must be resolved, which is why we immediately began mediation. I called my father, who gave the order to sell his shares. This turned out to be the right decision. I went to pick up my sons. It looked like we weren't on the front page anymore. Now there was another side. We went to our house and started packing what we wanted to keep. It was painful to see my sons leave behind personal items that their mother gave them. We were going to stay with my parents until we found a new place. This house made it too difficult for all of us to live here again. We worked until we were exhausted, so we only finished on Friday. On Saturday, Dad and I moved everything into storage. Somehow we survived. Rebecca was angry at her father because the board of directors left them to fend for themselves. Both Emily and she were informed that once the matters were resolved, they would be fired. As soon as they were informed of this, they both began looking for work. So far, the prospects did not look very good. On Saturday morning, while my sons and I were looking at houses with Amy Johnson, she informed me that Emily would be flying out the following weekend to pack and arrange for delivery of what she wanted. She put a few people through it, but most wanted to see what was left before making any decisions. I broke the news to the boys that night on Sunday. My 3 boys went out and Jack took them. Emily Wilson and I went out to a lunch meeting. I learned from Rebecca's father that Emily and she were coming next Friday. I was worried that my stubborn son would clash with his mother. Emily and I were walking around the mall. I wanted to see the styles and quality of furniture being sold in the retail market. That's when we met James and Martha Jones, Emily's parents. We bought coffee from the counter and sat down together. Their family was just as devastated as ours. I introduced Emily to them, explaining our relationship. In a conversation with the 4 of us, I learned how worried my sons were about me. All 3 of them asked Emily to keep an eye on me. When we found out about this, my father-in-law and I could not hold back our tears. We all agreed that if Emily really had an unconventional orientation, none of us knew. I found out that the children wondered why they had not heard from them and learned that the grandparents kept their distance because they thought the children would remind them of their mother and therefore avoided contact. On Thursday, Amy Johnson took Emily and me to see a house that had recently come on the market. It had 5 bedrooms with 2 master bedrooms, a built-in swimming pool with an outdoor kitchen. I really liked the 3-space garage with its open floor plan. It was available because it was a sale. After the owner's death, I proposed on the spot. Late on Friday evening, Rebecca and Emily arrived. They took a taxi back to what was our old house. It looks like my 3 sons left her a surprise. On a pile of cut-up photographs, they left all the sentimental personal items that Emily had bought for them. They wanted to send a message and it was received on Saturday night. Emily, the kids and I were having dinner at Ruby Tuesdays. I saw Emily and presumably Rebecca walk in. My son Jack went to the toilet and didn't see them. Emily and I noticed Jack walk past their table and Emily said something. No matter what my son Jack said, Emily said it made him run out crying. Emily, Watching this, turned her head towards me and gave me a very sensual kiss. We later learned that Emily tried to contact her family, but it was too soon for them. Mediation failed. We went to court. Son and Miracle Life appealed the court order, and because they publicly admitted their liability, the court ruled that they accepted liability. The only question was how much Rebecca and Emily were escorted out of the corporate building with their personal belongings. The next day their father was forced to resign as chairman of the board of directors. We haggled back and forth, but we made a deal. I bought a house and my sons were delighted. Emily helped me pick out the colors we wanted and refinish some of the floors. My divorce was moving forward and the old house was purchased by a mystery buyer for full asking price, with a quick closing once the documents were signed. The lawyer held the funds in trust. Son and Miracle Life decided to have the trial before a judge. Only it was a one-day hearing. The judge didn't like that. The corporation was trying to reduce its liability because it couldn't control people's personal behavior. Our lawyers implied that Rebecca Davis's position gave her the impression of being in control of the situation. When the dust settled, Son and Miracle Life lost big. Each of my sons received $500,000 plus legal fees. I was awarded $2 million, twice as much as my lawyers were willing to settle for a mediation. The divorce was uncontested and she was awarded half of our marital property according to state law. I never saw her. She never showed up in court. It turned out that the new owners of my old house were Rebecca and Emily.